to MUSD regular board meeting of the Board of Education, December 8th to 2020. Call this meeting to order, and Scott, would you help me with the roll call?
Sure thing. I'm going to do the president or the roll call. President Leanne,
Here.
Vice President Norwood,
Here.
Clerk Gip Twan,
Here.
Board Member Sai,
Present.
Board Member No,
Here.
Student Board Rep Stanley,
Here.
Student Board Rep Vasquez. Okay, I don't see her here. Okay,
Thank you.
hand it off to you, President Leanne.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, we're moving on to review and approve the open session agenda. Superintendent Jordan, is there any changes on the agenda?
No, there are not, President Leanne.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the session agenda?
Motion to approve the general session agenda.
My second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Seeing none, it is approved. We are now on flag salute. Scott, if I can have the flag on the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in our flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States
of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
for all.
Thank you. Okay, comments from the public. Members of the public may address the board on any subject not on tonight's agenda. However, provisions of the Brown Act, Government Code 54954.2A and .3 preclude any action. As an unagendized item, no response is required from the board or the district staff, and no action can be taken. However, the board may instruct the superintendent to agendize the item for a future meeting. If you would like to address the board on any item on the agenda or one that does not appear on the agenda, please join us via Zoom. Click on raise your hand button and you will be called upon in order. When it is your turn to speak, please state your name, address, and if you have any students in the district before you make your comment, you will have 2 minutes to make a public comment. So those wishing to speak during a specific item will be called on at that appropriate item. So thank you for your participation. And we are now turning to Scott for public comments.
Yes, and once again, just to reiterate, if you'd like to make a public comment, you need to be signed on to our Zoom. And you just click the raise your hand button and I will call you on the order that we have. And so right now, we have Robert Jung wishing to make a public comment. We're going to initiate his audio. And Robert, go right ahead.
Good evening, and thank you, Scott. Board, thank you for the opportunity, board and staff. I'd like to, I'm actually very proud to announce that we have opened registration for this year's STEAM Showcase, which will be held virtual for all of the district. It will be again held on March 13th, which is where we normally would have held the live event. So it's always the second Saturday in March. I'm inviting everyone to spread the word and encourage our students to participate. There have been a parent square message that has been sent home with the details. I want to thank Karen and Chin for their partnership in making this event happen again this year, even though we're in this strange new world. And I hope that this year we will have some very exciting projects, and I would invite everyone to check out our gallery on the 13th of March. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. John.
Thank you, Robert. As of right now, we have no other public comments at this time. Throughout the meeting, if you'd like to make a public comment, you just click, raise your hand, and when there's an opening, we will get to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. All right, we're moving on to MUSD 2018-2021 strategic goals. Build a culture of we that engages parents, staff, and community partners in supporting student success. Improve communication systems for better outreach to parents, students, and staff. Develop educational pathways that allow students to apply their passion in learning for their future careers. Focus services and support system to ensure that all students are engaged in their learning and are making social, emotional, and academic gains. Identify creative, student-focused strategies and accommodate in enrollment growth and ensure healthy learning environments. We are moving on to superintendent's reports. And this is the recognition part. And like I have said it many times, this is the best part of the meeting. Superintendent Jordan.
Yes, it is the best part of the meeting. I would like to first recognize Toyota, Piercy Toyota, which is located right here in Milpitas. And Ms. Sharice Struve is the controller, and Mr. Brian Ressler is the vice president. And Ms. Driller contacted me about 2 weeks ago, I would say, and said that they wanted to donate $10,000 to support the school district and how might we use the money. And I said, we definitely need more support with technology for our teachers. And so that's what we will use the funds for. And I asked she and Vice President Bressler if they would come so that we could recognize them publicly. And so I'm glad that they are here to do that today. I want to thank you both for thinking about Milpitas Unified and all of our learners. And here in our school district, we have 5 strategic goals, and our #1 strategic goal is to build a culture of we. And you certainly are on path to doing that with us. And you'll find, as I mentioned when we met in person, that Milpitas Unified is definitely on the move, and we're seeking to build our partnerships with businesses, especially our local businesses such as yours, for providing more pathways for our learners. And I look forward to when we can meet to follow up on that. But tonight, I would like to express our gratitude to you and ask if you would like to say a few words.
There we go. Sorry about that. I'm just glad that we can help out for the city. To be honest with you, I don't even understand how you're teaching kids without some type of devices, especially for the it's around here and everything. So very happy to contribute to that, and hope you use it very wisely. And thank you for coming down and meeting us on I think it was about a week ago Friday. We appreciate that, and I've been active with the since we moved here to Milpitas, so I want to continue and everything gets back to normal, whenever that's going to be. A wonderful job reaching out and getting to you, and she's the controller of our board here, and so I'm glad that you two got connected and very, very well. And like I say, Piercy Todd is very proud to donate the time to you. So
thank you very much, and we will definitely stay connected and continue to build a strong partnership.
Love to.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next, I would like to recognize our Milpitas Adult Education team, particularly the part of the team that provides education to our learners who are in the corrections facilities in Santa Clara County. One of them is at Elmwood, which happens to be across the street from Piercy. And I have with us tonight our principal of our Milpitas Adult Ed program is Juliana Brahim, as well as many of our other members of the team. And I would like to recognize our teachers, Kim Bravo, Amarla Shabataya, Martin Gonzalez, Gretchen Pierce is one of our classified team members who supports our work there, Starlene Soto, Randy Nolan, who is also another one of our classified members, and again, Principal Brahim and Vice Principal Avon Magana. And then Juliana will go ahead and introduce our correctional team within the Department of Justice that works with us to provide education for our learners there in the facility.
Good
Joanne?
evening, Board and Superintendent Jordan. Thank you for the opportunity and for the recognition to our staff at the correctional facility. Tonight, it is my pleasure not only to be with my staff of MUSD, but also to have among us Lieutenant Gil and Ms. Cecilia Nunez Masada, analysts for the programming unit. Dr. Marshall unfortunately could not join us, but he's here in spirit. And I am just so pleased to report that the strategic goals of MUSD and building the culture of we is exactly what we have done in partnership with the programming unit. It is because of Lieutenant Gill's vision that we are currently making collective impact to our learners. And because we have a common agenda and a shared mission, we're able to reinforce bringing virtual classes to the facility, something that is unprecedented, never heard of. And it is because the facility under the leadership of Lieutenant Gill were able to break some of the constraints. Our staff that is so well prepared and professional are able to get to our learners. I also want to recognize that the backbone support that we have in the data collection and the continuous communication with the team is making this pilot program successful so far. So I want to, again, Lieutenant Gill and all of my staff and Ms. Cecilia, I thank you for that partnership, and just it warms my heart all the time, every time that the board recognizes the good work that we do together.
Thank you, Principal Brahim. And could you explain a little bit about the challenge that we had in being able to provide distance learning to our learners? And perhaps Lieutenant Gill, you could also chime in.
Mm-hmm. So since March, when we went into shelter in place, Lieutenant Gill and his team and MAE were looking for many possibilities on how to continue bringing support to our learners. And every time we were almost there, we had to take a step back. But one day, Lieutenant Gill called me and said, "We got their green light ready to go." And my teachers who have been preparing for this great moment were able to start teaching remotely. And I will have Lieutenant Gill give us the rest of the story.
Good evening, all. Thank you so much for having me on. I truly appreciate it. What a great honor. Everything that we've been able to achieve in our facilities has been because of collaborative teamwork that has occurred, and a lot of behind the scenes work that has occurred, going from having access to laptop computers, getting the Wi-Fi up and running, figuring out the logistics, the multimedia angle to it, getting all the schedules in place, getting the approvals. The program unit is kind of like a collaborator between all the outside providers and the facility itself. We're kind of like the hub that everybody comes to in order to say if they want to provide some sort of services, be it educational or vocational. So the decision, I guess the point I'm trying to make is the decision-making process takes a little bit longer because you have so many different people that you have to get on board and to explain as to what you're trying to achieve. And it's sometimes difficult at times to get people to see the vision. But thanks to Juliana, thanks to Dr. Marshall and my entire team, we persisted with it, we pushed with it, we were able to have something up and running. And now I want to say about 3 to 4 weeks ago is when we implemented the virtual pilot program. And we actually were able to implement virtual learning for the men's minimum camp on at the Elmwood Correctional Facility, for the women's population over at Side 1, and for a particular housing area over at Main Jail. And as of right now, it is sustainable, it is working, and we're looking forward to expanding it to other areas and other locations with other additional classes. I am extremely grateful for all the assistance we got from Cecilia, going back to the Chromebooks, because that's what I initially used. I didn't have laptops. I didn't have access to laptops myself, but I ended up getting that. I was able to figure out, okay, we can get internet here. This is something we can plug. Zoom might be a format that we can use, or MS Teams might be a format that we can use. And all of that kind of just little by little, we kept working at it. And this is the result. I am truly excited and happy that we're actually able to provide this to our inmate population. I really am, because just because of the pandemic, they should not be denied the opportunity not to have access to all these services. And this is just the beginning. There's a lot of work that we're doing behind the scenes in order to bring vocational services, classes, training, and that is all thanks to nuggets dropped by Ms. Juliana here and there. I mean, I truly appreciate that. She's a wealth of knowledge. It's great to be able to bounce some ideas off of her and say, hey, how do we get this implemented? What should we look at? Thank you so much. I mean, not just her, the entire staff actually of teachers that we have working at Elmwood. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yes, thank you. I agree. For our board members, if you, when the time comes that we can go back in person to visit, I highly recommend, if you haven't already, and even if you have, to go and take a look at the good work that our learners there are doing with our teachers. And it really helps to ground us in the power of education and helping people to change their lives in the direction of their path. So I feel very proud that we have this team working with those individuals. So thank you.
Superintendent Jordan, I also wanted to mention that additionally to the virtual classes, we also have a very solid distance learning packet work that Ms. Mila Sherbataya has designed, and it is true distance learning packets. So we're trying to reach our students the best way that we can in any possible way. As Lieutenant Gill said, they deserve access to education, and I am just so proud of everybody. Thank you.
And we are too. So thank you all for taking time to be with us tonight so we can recognize your good work. And this is a culture of we. And also our strategic goal number 3, finding pathways for our learners.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Juliana, I know that you care deeply about, every year we would talk about Elmwood and the students there and making sure that they have the opportunity to learn and to acquire credits and be prepared when they were released, and then be able to continue their education with Milpitas Adult Education Center. And there were some, I can't recall exactly what it was, but I remember there were some specific goals and objectives that you would have for the students that were in Elmwood in terms of getting their certificates or something in terms of something that was aligned with for them preparing to leave Elmwood. Are we still on that same path? Could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you for bringing that up, Vice President Northwood. Our goal is to give our students while they're in incarceration the best, but it's also very important that to follow up with the transition, because the formerly individuals involved in the justice system deserve a second chance. The county has several safety net processes in place, but Milpitas Adult Education wants to make everything available for them, including our HiSET testing center.
Yeah.
So a learner that has taken 2 or 3 tests in the facility and has not completed their diploma, they do have the ability to come to our site, continue with the test, and do not have to pay for it because it was something that was already being paid while they were in incarceration. The other pathway that we're also wanting to do, and this is also in collaboration with Dr. Marshall and Lieutenant Gill, is when our students are not able to complete some classes or a training path, we want to be able to open our center so they can continue. It is very important, I always mention it lately, that the conversation in regards to the justice system is changing so much. It is not punitive. It is a restorative justice, and the many ways in which can build up our community by just raising up the individual's self-esteem, because we want them to be able to move forward and not get stuck in the process.
So when they transition out, at least in this stage, are we supporting them with technology, or is the team from Elmwood supporting them with technology as they transition out so they can get these things taken care of?
Mm-hmm. So again, Vice President Northwood, the county has a very large safety net for individuals that are transitioning. However, when they are out in the community, they are already immediately Milpitas Adult Ed students. So if any of them needed to get a Chromebook to continue any pathway, they can come to our site and we will treat them exactly the same as we treat any of our other students.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, team.
Thank you. Cheryl, would you,
yes.
Do we have a minute or two for my staff? I know that they will be very happy to share some of their insights briefly if we have
Sure.
a couple.
Definitely.
Thank
Go
you
ahead.
for that. Mr. Scott, will you be able to unmute, please? Starlene Soto and Martin and Kim Bravo and Mila Sherbataya.
Oh, they control all that themselves. They're here as
thank
panelists.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Team?
Sure.
I
I'll go
can.
first.
Okay.
Good evening,
ahead.
board
Thank
and
you.
Superintendent Jordan. Thank you very much. This has been an amazing process, and it is working. During our time off that we weren't in the facility, we were involved in professional development with continuing education and ramping up actually to do just what we're doing now. And it's rolled out nice. We have had minor glitches. I wouldn't even say, well, for me, I haven't had really any glitches. And the students, some of them are the same, are glad to see us. We're glad that we're back. We're able to communicate with the rehabilitation officers. And I am ecstatic to be back. It is just, it's speaking for myself, I'm sure I can speak for my colleagues too, because it's been amazing. It's been an amazing process. We haven't missed a beat. It's moving on. So thank you.
Can say something. I would like to say something too. This is Mila. The program that we started, it's virtual program for students and distant packets learning programs. I didn't even expect that. I've heard from the ROs and from Miss Cecilia how students are excited to get back, to start doing something, not just sitting, doing nothing. So we extended our packet program even to the point that there is a package for people who want to be enrolled in the health education program, and also people who would like to get high school diploma But there is some people who already have the high school diploma, and so we extend it a little bit and give them packets with something else like extra literature to read, like novels, and so they can occupy themselves. And I was checking today the homework. There was a lot of homework coming back, which is excellent. And people writing some stuff, or I need extra explanation and that. And there was a student, I don't know what dorm he is from, but I have it's an office, and he just put in big letters like cursive writing, "Thank you for the program," which was very, very nice to see. So they do appreciate it, and I even didn't know it's gonna start working fast. Of course, we expected hiccups and stuff. It's new for everybody, for us, for them, for everyone, but it does work, and they appreciate it. And it's, I think, that the best we can actually get appreciation.
Yes,
I
thank
just
you,
want to
Ms.
say that. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Martin. I'm one of the teachers at the Elmwood for the general population there. And, I have to ditto what Miss Kim said. It was just, it's been a real pleasure coming back and getting to see our students again and getting them engaged in all our curriculum and other things that we're doing. It's been a really great experience so far. And I just want to extend my appreciation to our superintendent and Lieutenant Gill and Miss Cecilia. It's been a real key to the whole thing, the whole operation that helped us.
Yes.
She's been awesome. I just want to thank her for that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
So my name is Starlene, and I'm your instructor for the main jail. And I do want to thank you all for all the support. Superintendent Jordan and Lieutenant Gill, the backbone support that we've had, Miss Nunes, all the collaboration that has gone on. I really got to ditto all of my coworkers and colleagues. The students are so engaged already, despite the hiccups. They are really engaged, and it shows an essence of hunger that they want to participate, and that's what I'm seeing. And like the lieutenant mentioned, we're only 3 weeks in, and things could only get better. There are a few hiccups. They're technical,
Yeah.
but despite all that, it's really been a joy to see the participation from the students. And I, for one, I am honored to be a part of such a wonderful 21st century learning collaboration. It's an honor, and I thank everyone who's supporting this new technology. And I
Oh, you're on mute, Scott.
so thank you.
Thank you, Starlene. Thank you, President Leanne and Superintendent Jordan, for all the support and positive attention always.
No, thank you, Juliana, and the whole adult ed team for providing the pathways for our learners in Elmwood and the main jail. That was my assignment there. I was a representative, and I love riding with Juliana on a little, I don't know, how do you call that? But she's
Go.
driving me around, visit from one cell to another, explaining to me. For our new members, please, after COVID, sign up to take that tour with Juliana. Is an eye-opening, and see what you can do to help the students there. So again, thank you, Juliana.
Thank you.
And the whole team, of course.
Yep. Thank
All right,
you.
Superintendent, moving on.
Before I move on to our next recognition, I also want to say thank you to our adult ed team. They are instrumental in providing our elementary learning pods for students whose parents are essential workers, and some of those are our own team members. So thank you too for stepping up and filling that need for us.
I'd like to share something. Like again, thank you to the team and listening to President Han talk about visiting Elmwood. I remember my experience visiting there and seeing everything that was going on a couple years ago. Yeah, it was a good experience, and I still remember meeting some of the learners there and listening to their stories. And about a year after that, there was a graduation ceremony. And I remember being on the Milpitas High School campus, and I met one of those families, and we remembered each other. He was like, "Hey, I remember you. You came to see us at Elmwood that day," and we caught up on how things were going. And they were just happy that they had moved on with the program. And I was glad to see them, and they were glad too. So.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay. We have with us our Chief of Police, Armando Corpus. And the community learned recently that Armando, Chief Corpus, is planning to retire. And we wanted to take this opportunity to thank you publicly, Armando, for really taking the partnership that we've had for a very long time between Milpitas Unified and Milpitas Police Department in serving our students. You really built on what has been developed, and you come from a long line of chiefs who everyone has added something. And what you did was you took it and deepened it, and really all of your actions mirrored our culture of we. I would like to recall a couple instances where we have the rapport with the police department in ensuring that our students and our educators really understand how the police can be of service. And that resulted in literally life-saving in a couple of instances with the police community bureau's support of our high school students. And you gave your own time as well to provide our students with a class for dual enrollment at the community college on Escuela, and teaching them about administrative and legal justice careers. And the other thing that our families and our staff have noted is that either yourself or one of your team members is present at just about every single one of our community programs that we have, whether it's our Milpitas PTA Council, a back to school night, or a bake sale, or whatever it is, you have somebody there. And even during distance learning, for example, there are police officers who are reading to our students virtually. The word's out, and we have many teachers who are calling to have your team in to read to them. And you really lead with a sense of calm, a sense of heart, and that connection that I think few people understand unless they've spent their careers or grown up here in Milpitas. And you really do epitomize that. And I understand that you're ready to discover your next road in your life journey. And I am glad for you. And I want you to know that it feels like we've only just begun, and we will greatly miss your presence. And you are always welcome here. If there's ever anything that we can do for you, please never hesitate to ask us, and know that you are always a part of Milpitas Unified School District's Culture Week.
Superintendent, we also have all the other board members have an opportunity to say something.
Awesome. Would you like to start first, Chris?
I get to go last. I've known him the longest. I get to go last.
Okay, then I'll take that first chance. Chief, when I read the news about your retirement, and actually you broke the news to me, I received it with mixed feelings. First is how we'll miss your continued support, your leadership in our Milpitas Police Department, your dedication to the safety of the Milpitas community, and especially your partnership with the Milpitas Unified School District. I remember going to events and you were always there. And we check, how schools are doing, how the city is doing. You will be missed, of course, by all of us. But on the other hand, I feel very happy for you that you are entering into another stage of your life that's well deserved because of many years of dedicated service to the people of Milpitas. Sharing with me, you told me that you are retiring, but you are not absent. You will be around for a little while. And specifically, you told me that the people of Milpitas will be in good hand under your successor's leadership. So you sign a blank check and you are asking your successor to honor that. And we have all the reasons to have that faith in. On a personal note to you, Chief Corpus, have a very happy retirement. As a common knowledge, the sun rises when it's set. And to you, let's say your sun sets to rise. Congratulations on your retirement. And like Cheryl said, come here, come to MUSD anytime. We're here for you, and we know that you're there for us too. All right. Next board member.
I'll speak.
Go ahead.
Wow, Chief Corpus, time really flies. I still remember, almost feels like it was only a few months ago that you were sworn in as the new police chief when Chief Pangilinan stepped down and you stepped up. And remember at that time, your commitment to high ideals and professionalism. And during your time as chief, I've seen that's 100% the case. I know these recent years have been challenging with a lot of things going on at the national level and various protests. But I know that even as I'm hearing from my friends, associates, and officials in other cities about their challenges, that never became really an issue in Milpitas because of that high standard of professionalism and ethics and commitment to service that you and your department have maintained in these years. That's really just built up that trust in the community. I remember marching at the Black Lives Matter march some time ago. You were there and you spoke, and it really just reflected the values of really help serving with the community, community-oriented policing. I remember a lot of times just going into the extension campus and seeing you there, teaching that class, training up a new generation of young leaders and promoting really a positive ideal of what policing and administration of justice is about, and that ideal to service. So again, I echo Han that mixed feelings, right? I'm super happy for your retirement, but we are going to miss you. And really, I thank you for setting that high example of what police leadership is about. And I'll be seeing you around.
Thank you, Michael. Min?
Thank you, President Leanne. Chief Corpus, I've probably known you the shortest amount of time amongst the board members here, but the quote that just comes to mind, it's better to have known to never have known. And just your presence in the short interactions that we've had has really left an impression with me, because you just represent everything that, is good with authority, but with community engagement as well too. And Superintendent Jordan mentioned this, the fact that you are at our community events, at the PTA council meetings, at the different bake sales, the different school activities. Your presence is just ever known in the city of Milpitas. And I thank you for that, because that just sets an incredible example for the rest of us to follow. So I appreciate that. And thank you for the time that you have given me to connect with you in the short period amount of time. And congratulations on your retirement.
Kelly.
Chief Armando Corpus. I remember meeting you for the first time when you were a captain. You went to my office and you bought a ticket. I think it was either to the Chamber of Commerce event or the Rotary. But whatever event it was, you're always there to support us. You've attended our school functions. I remember you contacted me asking me, hey, when is the PTA council meeting? And I'm thinking like, what was he gonna do there? Well, you showed up and you've been a regular, you've gone there regularly. And I think the PTA ladies there, they really appreciate you. And we always enjoy your presence. You're telling us what's going on with the community. You inform us. I actually look forward to that meeting too, because I get to see you and talk to you and hear what you have to share with us. Wherever I go, you're there. You've gone above and beyond your duties, as a police officer, as a police chief, a captain. You bring our community together, and we appreciate you as our chief, and I appreciate you as a friend. I wish you all the best and hope to see you around after your retirement. You're always going to have a place here at MUSD in Milpitas. But, I'm happy for your retirement, but I will miss you. And hopefully we'll get to hang out more after your retirement. And I wish you the best.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. Mr. Norwood.
Third grade, second grade, Joseph Weller Mustangs, Thomas Russell, Milpitas High School. Then we go our separate ways. We find our way in the world, have families, stay connected locally, and then we see each other again at the Hall of Fame in 2015, and we look at each other like, because we're like it from that era, in the positions that we are in the city, and we smile and we look and we're like, something about Milpitas that a lot of these folks don't. And our goal is to allow them to experience what we experienced as kids. And you took that responsibility when you became the police chief, and shared with the officers the heart of Milpitas and what it could really be like if they engaged and they participated. And you made sure that officers were all over the place, just observing, just visiting, just learning, just meeting people, in constant communication with the superintendent. And as all the other board members have said, you taught a class. You have exemplified leadership, civil servant leadership. You never wore your badge as if it was giving you authority. You wore your badge with honor as a servant. And I'm really grateful for all that you've done and how you've allowed many children in MUSD to see the police officers as allies, not as enemies, as an opportunity, with the Explorers program, with all the different things that you guys have done with children in MUSD, so they can have respect and appreciation for the work that you do. I am, words can't express my gratitude. You've set the bar high, and I've constantly watched that bar as I sit on the board and want to make sure that the things that I do can be recognized, at least in the same breath of what you've done for the city of Milpitas. So again, my tremendous gratitude, my thanks, Uh, and my best wishes for you and your family and your children for many, many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
President Lynn, may I also say a few words?
Absolutely.
Mr. Corpus, thank you so much for your selfless service. On behalf of all the students, I wanted to thank you for your commitment and your exemplary partnership with MUSD. Although I have not had the chance to directly interact with you, I have witnessed your leadership and your efforts to support all our students from elementary to high school and all our learners. And I've also witnessed your constant support. Like all the other board members said, you have always been an active member of our community and you have always attended all our meetings and events. And I wanted to thank you for that. And I wish you all the best in your future. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much. And congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you, Amy. All right, Chief.
I don't know how to follow that. I really don't. So first, to the board, Superintendent Jordan, to our student representative, Amy, and to all the other staff members here, thank you for those very, very kind comments. Before I forget to say these things, I need to say them first. And I think Superintendent Jordan really started to touch on it. What I did was help build off the foundation that others started to lay. And so, I would have to acknowledge, Chief said I worked really closely with Dennis Graham, Steve Pangelinan. They built strong partnerships in the community, worked to building a healthy organization. My efforts were to add to that. My style is a little bit different, but I think those differences make us stronger. And I find it odd and kind of funny, in a humorous way, that how life just comes back and brings things full circle. Like the Vice President Norwood was saying that, we've known each other since elementary school. For Amy, you probably don't know this, but my junior year of high school, I was a student representative on the school board. That was back in 1986. For Lieutenant Gill, that's here attending for a different purpose, I was his training officer when he was a reserve police officer with us. And so I find it very rewarding to be able to come back full circle to the school board, and thank you for all of that. One thing I really want to leave you with is we continue trying to serve our community consistent with the values of our community. And the reason it's been so important to me, not for me to be personally present at every event, but it was important for all of us, folks in the police department, in the city, to be present at these events, not to just build relationships, but to learn. We couldn't understand what you valued or what was important to you or what was happening in the community as far as safety or concerns or quality of life issues if we weren't present. And so my goal was to meet your expectations by serving you well. And so in building a police department and supporting a police department that continues to serve you well. And so all that said is after hearing your kind words today, I'm under the impression we are meeting your expectations. And I want to leave you with the confidence that, those that are now going to inherit the leadership of this police department are going to continue on the same path. That you have members of the police department, 126 employees here, from dispatchers to evidence technicians to front desk clerks to police officers, community service officers that are here serving with the right heart and mind. And we will do our best. Sometimes our best will fall short, but we will always learn from opportunities that where we could have been better. And I think we continue to build off even our current successes. So again, thank you for the recognition, the kind comments. I just find it funny how life just brings things back full circle. So thank you for your friendships as well. So I appreciate it. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
All right, back to business. Superintendent. COVID update.
Okay. So for those of us joining us today for the first time in a few weeks, each week I give an update on COVID-19 data and actions. And tonight I'm starting with our dashboard, which I introduced to the board last week. And you'll see that our numbers of staff members who are working on campus, we have an increase of 2 since last week. And again, for those who are interested in monitoring this, it is located on our COVID page, which can be found by linking here. And it provides many updates of information that comes from the Public Health Department, as well as our own resources. And I'd like to thank and acknowledge our staff for maintaining this page, and that would be Scott, along with Ava Magana and Damon James and Jean Chu, and several other people who all contribute to maintaining this COVID page. I'd also would like to share with the board that at last we have our testing for MUSD team members ready to go, and it will start next week, and it's for all MUSD staff. I do want to note that because Curative, while we are working with in partnership with the Santa Clara County Office of Ed, and they have worked to get a good cost on the Curative. It's about $100 per person, and it is carried by our insurance. I also want to note that we continue to research for any possible more cost-effective options, and currently we are looking into Stanford. And if that proves to be something that would be less than $100 and or provide testing for students as well, because Curative will not, and even potentially some of our families, then that may be where we switch. But currently we are getting ready to launch Curative. And for this coming week, all of our staff members who are working on campus will do the test, as well as any other team members who would like to. And then going forward, every month, every team member will be tested. And when the time comes that conditions are safe for us to bring in students for in-person learning support, then we will have our team members tested every other week. So twice a month. Last week, I reported to the board the data between the parent survey as well as the staff survey, and how it was almost very similar in numbers, where approximately 65 to 70% of parents said that no matter what, they want their students in distance learning 100% under MUSD Educate Everywhere for this school year. And about a little over 30% were open to some sort of in-person learning support. And about the same percentage of points were true for our team members when we surveyed them as well. And as I've reported before, while we have a great number of our students who are doing well academically with MUSD Educate Everywhere and being 100% virtual, we still have about 10% of our students for whom it is not the best way for them to learn at this time. And so we have completed our third meeting with our task force of 102 members to take what we learned in August and take what we know now and build our own in-person learning support models. And I expect that by the time we head out for winter break in 8 days, those teams will have completed protocols. And you can see to the right of the screen the areas that the protocols are addressing, so that when they come back in January, early February, our teams at each school site will be able to take those protocols and personalize them in an effort to build on what's working and prioritize students in phases of priority need, anywhere from extreme social emotional need to academic need and disengagement. And I'll continue to report on that progress.
Superintendent Jordan, could you define IPL for our audience?
Yes, it's in-person learning support protocols. We have many, many, many acronyms in the world of education, as we all know. And so I'm adding a new one, in-person learning models, IPL.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent. All right, we are moving on to Superintendent's Executive Cabinet's report.
I think tonight we will begin with our principal report with Principal of Milpitas High School, Francis Rojas.
Good evening, Milpitas Unified School District Board and Executive Cabinet of our district. Thank you for having me here. Oh, there's a message. I've been spotlighted. Okay. And I would love to give you an update about things that are going on at Milpitas High School as we are nearing the close of first semester. We're halfway through this school year. I'd first like to thank the school board for the decision you made last week at the special board meeting regarding quarantine after Thanksgiving. I want to say thank you on behalf of our CBI program, parents, and staff for allowing that small program to continue to serve our students with the most needs on our campus. I do want to share with you that the parents have committed to have their children tested in order to continue participating in this program in a good faith effort that we keep both students and staff safe. And I want to give special thanks to our staff in the in-person cohort, Mr. Mark Guntley, Wes Casco, Felicidad Eng, for their willingness to continue to serve our students during this challenging time. So again, thank you to the board for making that decision and helping out our students with the most needs. I'd like to report that we have ordered 300 PSAT tests for administration on January 26th for our 11th graders. We have annually about 300 11th graders who take this test. And so we are figuring out how to administer this test on January 26th in person. That's the only way we can do this test. But there have been several models that I have learned from other principals few other principals who have done this in October. And so we look forward to that. We'll be sending out information to our 11th grade students and their parents by the end of this week about ticket sales starting when we return from winter break. I would also like to share that I know Superintendent Jordan shared about the phase 3 task force transition to in-person learning. Our task force for MHS meets on Thursdays. We have over 25 members representing every academic and elective department on campus, as well as different representatives from our classified staff. So hopefully after our next 2 meetings, we'll come up with some plans about our phase 3 in-person supports to increase the amount of support we provide for the 10% of the students that distance learning is a struggle for. I would also like to share that in November, we launched Atlas. It's a mental health and social emotional learning app for all of our students and staff. And we've had hundreds and hundreds of students participate in learning about different aspects of mental health. They're kind of like, what do we call these things? I always forget what they're called. Like the little things you listen to.
Podcasts.
Podcasts, there we go. They're like little podcasts for students. You know, most of our students are accessing topics that are related to stress management, time management, and lack of sleep. Those were the top 3 modules that were accessed by students. And so this is also providing us data for our MTSS team to provide special seminars to help our students learn how to cope with these mental health and social emotional learning opportunities. For example, I believe just recently, Nicole Stewart provided a yoga session during lunch for students to participate in. And a couple of weeks ago, she also provided a seminar. I think there were about 50 students who participated around stress and students feeling inadequate because of stress. And so we are using that data to provide specialized seminars for our students to participate in. We are also getting close to wrapping up the design and development process with LPA Architects and TBK Construction Management. Our site committees and teams have worked really hard to put their minds together about how our future facilities will be used. And so we're excited to have a community presentation done by LPA to show the progress that we've made with our bond facilities construction project for Measure AA. That community meeting will probably be sometime in mid-January. And lastly, I would like to share, and I know Amy Stanley is quite aware of this because she's involved in the work as well. I really want to share with the board how hard our Associated Student Body Leadership students, that's our student government, has worked through this semester to provide social media forums for students to participate. This week is Winter Spirit Week. They have dress-up days. They send pictures. You know, we're trying to continue to build that culture and community, although we are all at home. And they are working very hard on that. And as you all know, they are also spearheading the Jack Emery Drive for us as usual. The challenges of distance learning and not being on site. However, we've found alternative ways to keep this alive. And as you can tell through social media, the food drop-offs over at MHS, plus pickups at other sites is still very fruitful, and we will be making a pretty significant donation to the Milpitas Food Pantry as a school district. So thank you for ASB's support and leadership on that. I also wanted to share that you know, we are in the holiday season, and again, things are different. And but to keep our traditions alive at MHS, our Black Student Union was able to decorate their tree at Christmas in the Park. You know, the alternative version, the drive-through. So I do want to thank our Black Student Union for keeping that tradition alive and having Milpitas High School represented at Christmas in the Park in San Jose. And lastly, I want to recognize our Travel and Tourism Academy students and staff for their work on creating a community service project they're doing as the Academy to create care packages for the unhoused in our community. They have been raising money and funds and donations to create these care packages, which will be distributed to our families through the work that our SLS coordinator, Nicole Stewart, as well as the work that our community liaisons, Raquel and Norma, are doing to identify families who really need assistance, our families who really need assistance during this holiday season. So I want to give my kudos to Travel and Tourism Academy. And you know I can keep talking, but I'm going to stop it there. And so that concludes my update from Milpitas High School.
Thank you, Principal Rojas. And next, I would like to invite our Assistant Superintendent of Learning and Development, Norma Rodriguez, to give an update.
Thank you, Superintendent Jordan. It is a great pleasure for me to report that the L&D staff, in close collaboration with the tech services team, has been hard at work with the pre-planning tasks in preparation for our 2020-21 academic year enrollment process. We are slated to begin enrollment on January 25th. lots of great work that is happening behind the scenes in preparation for that. Also working with the Randall team, and also preparation for recruiting for our new TKK students entering into the two-way bilingual and instruction. And the team is preparing and hosting virtual school tours, as well as a new video where we are showcasing students and parents, as well as some of the teachers, and ramping up for us to attract new customers and new students to that program of choice. Also reporting that the Child Development Center, we are in our 6th month of in-person services with over 50 students, and also in addition continues to provide a distance learning program to around 56 part-time students, which includes 7 of our inclusion preschool students. We are looking forward to getting back and on track for that in person. Took a little time for quarantine, but we will be back on in person on Monday. I'm also just coming up in the horizon for the team. We're looking and preparing for 2 very important reports for the state and federal. One is the SARC, which is the School Accountability Report Card, that must be completed and posted by February 2nd. And also we have a yearly collection for civil rights data collection comprehensive report that is due to the feds around early March, but it is a lot of work that needs to start planning around this time. And that's it for the L&D team.
Thank you, Norma. And next I would like to introduce our Assistant Superintendent of Human Relations, Jonathan Brunson.
Good evening, Trustee Leanne, also trustees and our community at large. A couple reports. One, gives me great pleasure to announce that we just signed another MOU with our CSCA for our summer assistance program. And that's where our employees who work 11 months or less can contribute 10% of their paycheck towards holding for the summer, but then the state will match it dollar for dollar. So we are going to do this for the 3rd time. This is going to be for the 21-22 school year. And so we're in our 2nd year already, but we're going to implement our 3rd. And just want to thank Michelle Kessinger and Lori Louie and Abner Ames and Suzette Bromachin for all their hard work, but also Heather Forsyth-Cano and Damon James, and also the amount of work that it takes in our payroll office with Sherry Ames and Uyenwen and Ria, and also with Lily Cortez, our new manager of business services in Duke. Thank you for your help in making this happen, because it truly does benefit our employees. And I'm also proud that we were one of the first districts in Santa Clara County to sign up for this a couple of years ago. It's a little bit of work, but it's worth it for our people. And so that's good news. We just announced that to the team last couple of days. The second is we've been hiring like about 50 people to teach our students the last couple of years. And I've been meeting with our principals and assistant principals to see how things are going, and just a lot of wonderful reports, even though with the amount of work that it takes to be a distance learning teacher. Our support staff that's mentoring them, our induction program led by Kim Nguyen, she's done a fantastic job. And just you know, the grade level support teams and the department teams that support our teachers and our administrators, it's second to none. So I just want to thank them for all their hard work in getting these new hires to come to our district, but also to be so incredible with our students. And it makes me feel great that so many are doing so well. When that's not always the case, because this is a hard profession to get into, and Milpitas has raised the bar, and we have amazing people doing great work each and every day. So that'll conclude my report, other than happy holidays, everybody. And I wish you all the best of health in these coming days before our 2-week break.
Thank you. Superintendent, unmute.
Oh. Take 2. Thank you, Jonathan. I would like to introduce our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, Wendy Zhang.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good evening, everyone. I have three reports for tonight. The first is from our student nutrition department. You probably heard that USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, extended the free meals program all the way to the end of this school year. So this is really a good news for everyone. That means we will continue to provide free meals, including breakfast and lunch to our families. And however, we do encourage the families to continue to submit the lunch applications because our federal funding is heavily rely on this lunch applications. So if you haven't get a chance to do so, we highly encourage you to submit the form and to our student nutrition department. And by the end of December, we can still use our current form. Starting in January, because of these changes, there will be a new form released by IRS department that we have to use. And so we just we encourage you that if you can do it before the end of the month, that'll be better. The second report is for our Meadows state matching fund application. So tomorrow night, we're anticipate the state allocation board will approve our preliminary funding application for Meadows. And the time just works out perfect. And after tomorrow's state allocations board approval, and we needed to submit the priority in funding form to a different state department. And the due date for that form for this year is the 10th. So it's the last day we can still catch up our application. And by doing so, this will get us much closer in the process of receive our state matching funds for Meadows. We're estimating about 16 million. So really excited for that. The last report is tomorrow evening, 6 o'clock, we're going to have our bond oversight committee meeting. If you're interested or wanted to hear our latest update from our Measure AA bond projects and also our budget on the bond program, we're welcome you to join us for our 2020 last bond oversight committee meeting tomorrow. That concludes my report for tonight.
Superintendent Jordan, can I add one more thing real quick? It's real quick.
Yes.
Wendy, okay.
Okay. And it's only because it's kind of in Whitney's department. Sandy, her director for student nutrition, is worked together with Jean Shu and Sandra Quintana to put these really cool positive notes in all of our students' lunches as just tokens and reminders about how amazing they are as students. So there'll be about 900 of those put in different bags across the district just to say thank you, but also to encourage them. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Sandy and our team for doing that for our students.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you, Sandy and team. All right, I believe that concludes superintendent's report. Moving on to board group agreements. There. The board group agreements, one, keep learning and achievement for all students as a primary focus. Ask questions for your own understanding. Be open and honest to each other. No surprises includes unapproved communications with law enforcement, news media, regional elected officials on behalf of the district and or the board. Be aware that our behavior in the community reflects on us as a team. Communicate proactively with each other about topics, questions, and challenges in open session and in advance of public board meetings in compliance with the Brown Act. Participate in professional development and commit the time and energy necessary to be informed and effective leader. Actively support the culture of We in Action, deed, and opportunity to serve the students and parents of the Milpitas Unified School District. Board communications request. We're going to start with you, Amy Stanley.
Good evening, everyone. Milpitas High School has been involved with quite a few activities since our last board meeting. We are currently on week 3 of the Jack Emery Drive, and we have been able to raise about 8,000 cans so far. Due to the new county guidelines, we have canceled our weekly drive-through collections and have shifted to accepting online donations. However, we are still confident that we'll be able to make a significant contribution to the Milpitas Food Pantry. This week, like Principal Rojas mentioned, is our annual Holiday Spirit Week, and although we can't show our MHS pride in person, our leadership team is working hard to foster community through various social media platforms. And aside from student government hosted events, over 80 plus clubs have also been engaging students through virtual meetings, guest speaker panels, and virtual community service opportunities for the past few months. And before I close, I would also like to mention that we are almost done with our official first semester of distance learning. And although there were many challenges along the way, we could not be where we are today without the dedication of our amazing teachers and administration. And I believe MHS and our district has done an exemplary job embodying the culture of we the past few months, which just serves as a testament to the perseverance and strength of our MUSD family. And with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Amy. Board Member Ngo.
Thank you, President Leanne. So my activities are I attended the Milpitas Rotary meeting, the MUSD special board meeting, the CSBA annual education conference that was held virtually, the Santa Clara County School Boards Association virtual reception for the conference, the second harvest food drive distribution at our Milpitas High School location. Just a quick tidbit on that. Our numbers increased as far as the families served. We served over 990 families. So we're getting close to the 1,000 families being served during this holiday season. I want to thank you to all the Milpitas High School students and Cal Hill students that come out and volunteer. And so I appreciate your conversations with me during those volunteer events. Dropped in on the Jack Emery food drive drop-off at Milpitas High School. Attended the Santa Clara County elected officials call on the COVID-19 update and attended the MUSD team hall. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Sai.
Good evening, everyone. I'll start with my most recent activities. Earlier today, I sat in on the Milpitas Suicide Prevention Task Force, where one of our team members, Sandra Quintana, was also talking. It's really important that we protect mental health during these times. I was at the MUSD team hall earlier today. We talked about COVID and other things. I had a phone call with the county public health department, sorry, getting updates about COVID, and yeah, it's getting bad, so please take it seriously. Went to the CSBA conference virtually, attended various sessions, including SCC SBA, and there was a special board meeting, and I've just been continuing to research COVID and our response. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Clerk Kelly Chuan.
Good evening, everyone. My report, I went to, well, virtually, the chamber board meeting. I attended the CSBA conference Thursday and Friday. We had the SBA virtual meeting, elected and official meeting, and the MUSD team hall meeting. And I've also met with some families to distribute masks. Ever since we went back into the purple, I had a few families contacting me for masks. And although we haven't been out there to distribute the mask, but if anyone needs masks, please let me know and I will get them to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Vice President Norwood.
Mute myself. Okay. We had a Santa Clara County Legislative Action Committee meeting where the topics of discussion were regarding, as Superintendent Jordan had mentioned earlier, our insurance rates in terms of dealing with providing testing and what the possible alternatives were. I also attended this California School Board Association conference I attended several sessions, which included the community partnerships that support local school district, federal 2020 programs, budgets, and the elections, reimagining school marketing in the post-COVID-19 era, and parent ambassadors and their roles in connecting families. All of these, which are relatively relevant to Milpitas Unified School District. Also participated in 2 emergency elected officials calls regarding the change of the purple tier in the most recent modified shelter in place. The highlight of the last 2 weeks for me was on Thursday morning, I had the opportunity to attend the Silicon Valley Education Foundation panel featuring our own Superintendent Jordan and the moderator, a longtime leader in the community, Manny Barbera, shared with me personally that her leadership shined through, and her knowledge was one of the highlights of the events. I attended the MUSD Team Hall, the MUSD Cultural Sustainability Leadership meeting, and the Santa Clara County School Board Association new board member announcement that was a part of the CSBA conference. I know I didn't get it all, but that's enough.
All right, thank you, Vice President Norwood and all board members. Similar to our board members, I also attended the CSBA annual conference. And during those 2 days conference, there are sessions that we pick and choose of which we like to attend. So among us 5, I think we covered every single session on the list, right? On the program. So good. And then we share notes. And that would be someday soon that we can sit and reconcile the notes and share it with other staff and cabinet as well. I also attended team hall meeting, and okay, I forgot the others, but those are the 2 main meetings that I attended. And let's move on to our action items. A, adopt resolution 2021.21, Milpitas Unified School District Common Sense Resolution. Superintendent.
I'm sorry, Board President, you failed to recognize your participation in the discussions with the Milpitas Unhoused in terms of looking at our students in McKinney-Vento in terms of being able to support them. You've also provided meals to the elders in the community. I don't know why I know more about what you've done than you're remembering, but you've done a lot more than you've mentioned. So I just want to make sure that the community is aware that you're extremely active in support of our students, of our elders during COVID-19.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Superintendent.
I have the honor of introducing a board resolution on common sense. And this is a resolution that began as a draft with Vice President Norwood over a year ago, after we had the experience with the blackface incident, and taken into consideration what we've learned since then. It's been revised with input from student leaders as well as school leaders. And I would like to introduce Amy Stanley and Principal Rojas. Amy is our board representative, as well as a leader in many other ways on the school campus, one of which is speech and debate champ, and also serving as chair on Red Cross Committee for Santa Clara County. And so I would like to invite you, Amy and Francis, to lead us off with the resolution.
I believe there was a recording, I think.
Yeah, Principal Rojas actually had a family matter he had to pertain to, but yeah, they did a video production. Amy, if you want to talk about, you helped develop the resolution and then help with the video reading.
Yeah, of course. Would I need to share the video?
We're gonna share the video once we're ready to go.
Okay. I guess I'll just speak a little bit about the resolution. I think the
Yeah.
resolution is a really important resolution that we've worked together to establish, and I think essentially it embodies like the diversity of our student body and the importance of recognizing our student body and staff. And I feel like this resolution will help us bring everyone together in light of our differences and just embody the culture of we on a higher level.
Thank you, Amy. And we're gonna go right to the video now.
Whereas the 2019 National Civil Rights data shows students of African ancestry are expelled at 9 times the rate of white students, are suspended at a higher rate than other students, and academically perform lower than other students. And
whereas people of African ancestry spiritually, hopefully, silently, and soulfully and simultaneously carry the burdens of heinous historical acts and the resolve of their cradle of living descendants to continue positive contributions to the new world, including but not limited to being the birthplace of civilization, creators of math, early medicine, agriculture, and technology.
Whereas the terms of racism, oppression, prejudice, inequality, and inequity derive from a lack of intentional or otherwise cultural awareness, sensitivity, research of historical facts, and ignorance, and lead to hurtful acts such as blackface and other unconscionable ethnic imitation. And
whereas people of African ancestry by immigration, force, slavery, or choice are sometimes incorrectly used to characterize the human experience of tragedy and suppression, rather than emphasizing and upholding as examples of human resiliency, triumph, perseverance, and fortitude. And
whereas emotional history, emotional intelligence, cultural awareness, and sensitivity are key elements of the academic experience through social emotional learning and becoming an empathetic, compassionate contributor to the success of American society, economy, and life itself. And
whereas the Milpitas family builds bridges to connect walls and dig truth tunnels through mountains of old tradition, social media opinions, sensationalized news, and perceived privileges. And whereas it is common sense if the data shows what you are doing isn't working, you must do something different. And
whereas it is common sense the Milpitas Unified School District Board of Education lead by example in its decision-making practices, fiscal, legal, academic, cultural, and otherwise. And
whereas it is common sense we recognize October 31st as a day MUSD will use as a testament to the advancement of our culture of we through upstanding and social justice, and as a day in which we discovered we are both united and divided by the sum of our experiences, beliefs, incomes, religions, and cultural connections. And
whereas it is a common sense that all leaders in all contexts, from the dais to the school office, to the district office, to the classroom, has a moral imperative to equip our guiding adults with the opportunity to connect their responsibilities to realities of each other in meaningful ways that enhance camaraderie, campus safety, culture, and inclusive experiences for all students and families. And
whereas it is common sense that MUSD supports its parent-teacher programs, partnerships, and communities by providing our students' parents and caregivers the opportunity to include and broaden their cultural awareness and sensitivity to others. And
therefore, be it resolved that Milpitas Unified School District Governing Board of Trustees, administration, teachers, staff, parents, and most importantly, students are provided opportunities to continue the city's legacy of being the global village of the Silicon Valley, where all are committed to being culturally aware and sensitive to the demographics, economics, and history of MUSD students and families.
Thank you, Amy.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, resolution passed. Thank you again, Amy, Principal Rojas, and all students who helped in this video and helped in the readings. Moving on to B, Comprehensive Coordinated Early Intervention Services. Assistant Superintendent, Learning and Development, Norma Rodriguez.
Thank you, President Leanne. Good evening, everyone. The Milpitas Unified School District has officially completed the 3 of the required 4-phase programmatic improvement process towards the completion of the CSACE plan in accordance with federal regulations. I want to thank the board for your insightful questions and your input at our board study session on November 24th. We've taken all of your input as well as the input of the stakeholders through this process. And this plan before you is ready to be submitted to the California Department of Education by the deadline of December 15th. At this time, we are recommending the board to approve the plan as soon as the state approves it as well. After our Board of Education, we will begin with phase 4 implementation soon after, and we will come to the board to provide quarterly updates on the progress. And so we're asking the board to please approve this plan.
Thank you, Norma. I'm gonna ask Scott to monitor the participants for public comments.
Yeah, we just had somebody raise their hand right now. We're always monitoring. It is Robert Jung. And Robert, we're gonna enable your audio and you're good to go. Robert, you just have to unmute yourself. There you go.
All right, there we go. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, board and cabinet. I want to thank the team for the in-depth discussion and the root and net cause analysis and the detailed plan that was presented. My apologies for not being able to attend the 24th study session. In going through that plan, I do want to challenge the team because I think the plan can be more innovative. I believe that there are additional items that seem, for example, surveys that we've done in the past that have yet to really bear fruit. I really believe that the district really needs to find alternative ways to engage parents, and as soon as they become available into the district. So starting at TK and I believe we need to really do it continuously through high school in order to make a significant impact on our students' outcomes. Parents really need to feel and act as partners in their children's successes, and teachers as well as the administration may have to lead and coach and perhaps model these families to demonstrate what that looks like. I would also suggest that we look at ways for successful students to be role models for students who have challenges, such as use of big brothers and big sisters concept to make this work. I really think we also need to continue to make and even add more investments in the summertime at the TK and kindergarten level to ensure our students begin their academic careers at par and not already behind. So I really believe that investments in Head Start and English immersion and things like that are essential. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. We have one more hand raised. Jacqueline Romero. We're going to enable your audio. And You are good to go. Take yourself off mute.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. I just want to thank you all for voting for this. I remember it was over 2 years ago where we had brought the first issue to the table with, at that time, President Norwood. And so I'm glad that this has been taken seriously and you guys have created this resolution. I, like Mr. Robert Jung, believe that it's great to have this, but it's also very important to make sure that we're creating the conversation on a yearly basis. So adding that to the curriculum for teachers to teach at every grade level will be very important and very, again, very important to have it be consistent. There's times where there's something that's said that's going to be done, but not all teachers do it. Teachers do it if they feel like it in some cases. And I hope that this is going to be something that teachers are actually going to be doing consistently and with the understanding that it's really important and it can't be not talked about. Teachers have to make sure that they do have these conversations in their classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Scott, I think that's it for the public comments. I don't see any
Yeah.
more raised.
Mm,
Okay,
There you go. Mhm.
all right. Going back to board members, do any of the board members have any questions or comments?
For the sake of time, I want to thank Norma and the team for taking the feedback that we've had in the study session and working to align it in so many ways into the culture we and across the district, and acknowledging the comments that both of Jackie Romero as well as Robert Jung has stated in context of being a board member and knowing what it takes for teachers to have the opportunity to expand, to consider other possibilities is a tremendous effort. And I appreciate this one approach, which there are many, to move these things forward so that we can have the school district that we all desire to have.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments for the team?
Yeah, I'll mention during the annual education conference, there was a topic called significant disproportionality relating to this topic. And in that discussion, as the state audits different school districts, they did mention that on a yearly basis, approximately 30 school districts fall into this category that we're falling in at this point in time. And so I appreciate the study session, the in-depth review. I do think that from a progression standpoint, it will take a lot of effort to get that trickle down to each individual classroom, but we have to be open and honest with our discussions in the sense of how do we best partner with our families to provide the best education for our children. So this plan is part of that step, but the implementation is what I'm looking forward to in future board meetings. So I appreciate the time.
Yes, absolutely. And yes, during those classes that we learned, it also says there's three main things: the engaged school and community, find the root cause, and comprehensive root cause, plan development, and then implement the plan. So I know that Norma and the team have done the work. This is to approve the plan, and let's wait to have the state approve that so that we can implement it and move forward with the plan.
I want to thank you, board, for your support, and I sincerely want to thank you for your investment in asking the hard questions and pushing our thinking. It is through your investment and reading the plan and asking the questions that we truly become partners. And I deeply appreciate that in your trust. And I can assure you it was a collaborative effort, but your input was very valuable as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Jacqueline and Robert, for your input as well. And all the community members with the previous meetings input. If there are no other comments, discussions, or questions, I do need this is an action item. I do need a motion.
You have a motion from Chris Norwood.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Please say
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Congratulations, Norma, and really thank you so much for all the hard work. And let's get this going.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're on C, adopt the 2021 first interim report. And this is Assistant Superintendent Business Services, Wendy Yang.
Thank you, President Lan. I would like to share my screen, possible. And we prepared a short presentation for tonight. Before we get into our presentation, I would like to spend a few minutes to walk you through the documents that attached in our board agenda. The first one is this 2021 first interim income statement. Can you guys see this, my screen, see the income statement? Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is the income statement. It's a summary of the total revenues and total expenditures with a projected ending fund balance of each fund. And there are 2 pages of this document. And then the next attachment here is our presentation that I will go over with you just in a little bit. And then here is our multi-year projection worksheet. This is the multi-year projection worksheet that normally you see. We share that in the past with you. We will cover some of the highlights during our presentation later on. And then after this is called the SACS report. SACS stands for Standardized Account Code Structure. Basically, the school districts in the state of California are all using the same account structure. And this is the standardized report that the districts will need to submit to the state. You notice here the total pages is 139 pages. And so the document I just shared with you, our multi-year projection and our income statement, as well as if you notice under the background here, we listed the analysis of the variance between our first interim and the board approved budget by each major object code here. So with those informations, it should cover for the SACS report as a summary for you. Okay, so now let me pull up our presentation for tonight then. I'll make it a slideshow. Okay. Well, we'll start with our presentation by looking at our district's 5 strategic goals. Under each goal here, you noticed we highlighted some of the keywords just for your reference. And in the earlier of the meeting, I know we shared the strategic goals in detail. So here I won't read each of them for you.
The reason we started with our district strategic goals because these are the foundations when we do our budget development. The purpose of our first interim budget update is to provide the board and the community with a snapshot of the district's financial status based on the information that is currently available. There are three types of certifications. A positive certification means the district is able to meet its financial obligations for the current year and also the 2 subsequent years. A qualified certification means the district may not be able to meet its financial obligation either for the current year or the subsequent year. A negative certification means the district is unable to meet its financial obligations for the remainder of the current year as well as the subsequent years. So based on our projection, we're going to submit a positive certification for us. We use the actual financial data as of October 30th for our budget update. And also we followed the recommendations from School Services California for our first interim update. The School Services of California is an organization that provides guidance and advises on school district finance. In this first interim update, the funding from this federal CARES Act provide a significant contribution to the improvement of our budget. CARES Act stands for the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. We received about $4.3 million, and it's a one-time funding, and we will need to spend it by the end of this month. Districts who cannot spend the funding by the due date will need to return it, and which we don't want that to happen to us. Now let's look at our spending plans. For the total of $4.3 million, we allocated about $1.1 million to pay for staffing in support our students with disabilities in a special ed program. And also we allocated $2.1 million just on equipment and materials. From this $2.1 million, about $1.7 million will focus on technologies, software, equipment to support our distance learning program. And also another $1 million to pay for staffing costs in support distance learning activities. With the help of this one-time funding, it relieves the spending from our general fund in this year. We're also expecting another $1.8 million from this CARES Act. As of now, we only received about $150,000. Based on the current statutory timeline requirement, $800,000 will need to be spent by the end of this school year, June 30th, 2021. But the other $1 million can be flexible. So our goal is to prolong at least this $1 million to next year. So strategically, we can use this $1 million to cover for some payment in our general fund, and then can relieve the spending from general fund so we can create savings next year. Okay, this is the SB 820. It's Senate Bill 820 was signed into law in this September. This is more like a technical cleanup bill to the SB 98. And SB 98 was adopted in June as a part of the 2021 state budget. The main change in this SB 820 is to allow districts to apply for growth funding. If the district projected either an ADA, means attendance, or enrollment growth for the current school year. So for Milpitas, of course, we will be eligible for this application. And so when this bill passed, I was actually really excited about it because Milpitas is one of the few districts that are still growing. And we also projected an increase in the past. However, by looking at the formula, and here's how the funding is going to be calculated. It's going to be based on the lesser of either the actual enrollment on October 7th, discounted by the state average absence rate, or our projection. So look at our data. On October 7th this year, our enrollment actually went up by 150 more students than last year. But because the state average absence rate is so low, the gross ADA calculated is only at 9,800. Our attendance rate is much higher. We're at 97%. So in other words, Milpitas is doing much better than the state average in attendance, which means for every 100 students, we automatically earn 3 additional ADAs. So that's why you will see our projection is much higher than the state average calculation. So by default, our funding was based on the 1920 level. So in generally speaking, this SB 820 did not really benefit us at all. I actually shared I called school services and to share with them about this deficiency of this formula. And normally school services, their voice will be heard by the Department of Finance. And I just hope that in the future, when the Department of Finance work on school districts funding calculation or formula, they should consider all the possible consequences or outcomes so then they can prevent this happening again in the future. Because in reality, we have to hire an additional 6 teachers to accommodate for our growth this year, but we're not going to get funded for. Okay, so now next I'm going to turn it over to our manager, Lilia. So she will share with you the general fund revenue projection summaries. Lilia, I'll turn it to you then. I'll present for you.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Wendy. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'm going to be going over the revenue sources, sorry, and expenditures for the 2021 first interim reporting period. Here in this slide, you will see our pie chart of how the revenue has been divided. Our biggest pot of money is our main source of the district's revenue, which is the local control funding formula, also known as LCFF. This accounts for about 75% of the total general fund revenue. The factors, the factors that affect the LCFF calculation are the percentage of cost of living adjustment, also known as the COLA, the average daily attendance, our ADA, the percentage of unduplicated pupil count of English learners, low income, and foster youth. Our total district LCFF revenue is projected at $94,587,767 for the 2021 school year. In addition to our LCFF revenue, we estimate that we will receive about $8.5 million in federal funds for categorical programs, such as our Title I, our workability programs, and the after-school safety after-school education and safety programs, or ACEs, as well as federal funds for the CARES Act. Accounts for about 6.8 of the total revenue received. For our state revenue, we estimate we will receive about 10 million, or about 8% of total revenue. This also includes CARES Act one-time funding received for COVID-19 related expenditures. In our special program, in our special education program, we estimate we will receive almost $6 million. Local revenue is estimated to be about 3.8 million. This revenue includes either one-time or no guarantee funding, such as our donations, which we account will be about 1.5 million, or our parcel tax, which will be about 1.6 million. For our transfer ins of about close to 2.9 million, most of it will be in routine transfers from our building fund, our post-retirement fund, and RDA settlement from our special reserve. There will also be made an additional transfer in of about 450K from our special reserve to balance our general fund. Next slide, please. In this one, we have broken out our expenditures, our projected expenditures for our general fund. We projected to be $131,177,622. The breakdown is as follows. We have our operating, which is usually our utilities, repairs, and other services for about 11 million. This is mostly for contracted services for special ed and the general fund. Our other outgoing and uses are about 6 million, and the majority of those expenditures will be to pay out the Metro Ed program for about 3 million and 2.5 million to the special education county program. For our transfer outs, this year we foresee having to contribute to other funds, such as our adult ed for about 59K and our child development center for about 45K. Because of the CARES Act, we also, our supplies is going to be about $9,288,032. And our salaries and our benefits are projected to be a total of $104,774,865. The salaries are projected for both classified and certificated to be about 76,483,217, where our benefits are projected to be 30,291,648 for total expenditures of about 105 mil. And this is about 80% about our total expenditures that's on salaries and benefits. The salaries reflect employee staffing column changes plus other staffing changes to date. And our changes to the fringe benefits have been included in the 2021 budget. This includes any benefit changes due to salary adjustments or staff changes. And our statutory benefits have been updated based on the current available information. And that's on the
Well, thank you, Lilia, for go over the revenues and expenditures projection here. Now let's look at our multi-year projections. Here are the data that we used to project for the next 2 years. ADA is average daily attendance. Next year, we projected a 90 ADA increase. And then the year after is additional 50 more ADA. At this point, there is no news that the Department of Finance is not going to fund growth. So we are going, because since our district is growing, and we believe that we should project our ADA increase for the future years. And even though
in reality, our ADA might increase a little bit more than this, and this is still a conservative projection for now. COLA is cost of living adjustment, and the deficit factor right now we use 0% for the next 2 years. This means the funding for the next 2 years will be the same at the current year level. And the current year funding is capped at the last year. So basically, the funding is maintained at 1920 level. English learner and low income percentage. This is also often we call supplemental students. It's our supplemental percentage. And you probably noticed that our projection shows a trend of decreasing. This because our demographics has changed. And based on the past 3 years of a trend, this supplemental percentage has been dropping. From these 3 factors, we calculate our LCFF local control funding formula revenue is about 94.8 million next year. And the year after, it just went down a little bit. Even though you noticed we have an ADA increase, this ADA increase will bring in about 500,000. But because of the decrease in our demographics change, the supplemental percentage, our overall revenue actually went down a little bit compared the year before. Here are the rates that we used in our projection for the certificate employees retirement contribution, and the PERS is for the classified employees. Next year, the rate for STIRS is pretty much capped similar level to the current year. And the PERS, it goes up by almost 2%. But look at the year after. In this 3rd year, STIRS will increase by 2.1%, and the PERS will increase over 3%, 3.3%. This additional contribution is about 1.8 million for us. And you notice we don't get additional 1.8 million new revenue in this year. So that means this will have to come out of our pocket to cover for this cost. Now let's take a look at our reserve fund balance. This slide will give you an overview of how we're doing financially with our reserves and the building fund. So this first column means it's the current projection. So after our first interim update for the current year, we're projecting 13.2 million fund balance in our reserves by the end of this year. And then next year, we're going to use 7.7 million from the reserve to balance our budget. So we will have 5.5 million left. And then the 3rd year, we're going to fully use the 5.5 million. And then we'll have 0 here. So this is our most current projection. This second column reflects the projection we did back in September after we closed out the 1920 book. At that time, we projected our reserve balance will be about 10.6 million. And then we're going to fully spend it the year after. And the 3rd column is the adoption we did projection back in June for the current year. If you recall, back in June, the governor proposed a 7.92% deficit to our revenue. That is about 8 million revenue loss for us. And at the adoption, we projected 3 different scenarios. And this was the best scenario at the time. It was so we projected 1 million in our reserve balance. So obviously, the purpose I showed this analysis to you you can see that our reserve fund balance has been improved significantly compared to back in June, which is a good news for us. And also now let's look at our building fund. The building fund is meant to spend on building repairs, building maintenance. Normally, we should not rely on building fund to balance general fund budget. And the building fund and the similar analysis, this column is the current projection. And we're projecting 18.3 million fund balance at the end of this year. And next year, we projected a little bit conservative, just in case the property value will not go up. And then look at the third year. It dropped by almost 8 million. That's because we will need to use this 8 million to help our reserve to balance budget, because we won't have any reserves left in that year. And comparing to our current projection to the year September projection and also back in June, of course, you can see our building fund balance has also been improved. So with this, now let's look at our general fund multi-year projection. This first interim is our current year, 2021. And then the next year, 21-22, and the third year is 22-23. I won't go over this worksheet, but I like just to point out some highlights here. You heard from the previous slide that both our reserves and the building fund balance have been improved, so which is really a good news for us. But I would like to point out to you that look at here. This means the deficit spending. Our general fund deficit spending gap continued to grow. Current year, this 7.8 difference is the revenue versus the expenditures here. However, in this 7.8 million, we have about 3.8 million program carryovers that was recorded in the ending fund balance from last year. And this ending fund balance is carried forward as part of our beginning fund balance to current year. And we have to fully budget the program expenditures in here. So you can see our expenditures total went up. So in the real deficit for current year will be about 4 million. And then after we close out the book, most likely the deficit probably will go down to about 2 million. And because we have some operational savings, about 2.9 million from previous year, and current year, we don't need much reserve to balance our budget. But next year, we won't have program carryover anymore. So this is a true deficit gap between our revenue and expenditures. And we will need to use 7.7 million from our reserves to balance our budget. And look at the third year. The third year, we don't have enough from our reserves anymore to use. So we have to borrow funds from our building fund, additional 8.2 million, in order for us to have a balanced budget. The reason why I point out to you, I wanted to bring to your attention that if you kind of followed our budget presentations from the past years, you probably have noticed this pattern by now. The third year has always been the challenge year. Normally, we're doing okay in the current year. The middle year, fortunately, we have reserves that we can rely on, and we'll balance the budget. And then the third year has been the year we have to really monitor and come up with the plans to balance our budget. And the reason, one of the main reasons that caused this to happen, in my opinion, is because there's a funding structure. If you look at our current year projection, from our LCFF revenue, federal revenue, and state revenue, these three together is about 114 million. So that's almost 95% of our total income. What does this mean to us? That means we're heavily rely on the performance of the state's economy, and so we can know how much money we're going to get. Unlike some districts in our county, they're called community funded districts. Their funding is driven by their local property tax value. So their structure will make their budget projection a little bit easier. And for us, under this current difficulty times, we can only project our budget just one year at a time. Well, there are some other challenges along the road for us to finish out for the current year. Back in June, this is the statement I shared with you during our 2021 budget adoption. This was the expectations back then from our superintendent. And this has continued to be our focus for the rest of the year. Use every possible opportunity to prepare for and ensure continuity of learning, wellness, and safety for all staff and students. However, there are also some other factors that we should consider now. For example, teacher retentions and how to bring accelerated student learning program needs post-COVID-19. With that, I would like to turn it over to our superintendent, Mrs. Jordan. Maybe she can share with you from her perspective regarding this challenge. Cheryl?
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Zhang. Yes, I appreciate that you are pointing out that this has been our call to action, and as particularly back in May when the state was estimating a tremendous amount of deficit. I believe it was around 54 billion. And we were looking at three bad, worse, even worse case scenarios where our ending fund balance in year three was looking anywhere from 6 million to 15 million. And because the conditions in the state revenue in September were greater than expected from the tax base of companies that we know well and we drive by here in Silicon Valley, the outlook is not as bad as it was then. However, it still is not an outlook that is the best possible outlook. And we talked back in the spring, and we continue to do so, about the need for us to look at ways that we maintain a healthy financial situation that allows for us to expand services to students, and especially in light of what's happening with COVID and the impact on student learning and the need to accelerate learning gains for our students, that it's even more important that we focus on revenue building and all aspects that we can do so. So there have been a large number of grants that the district has applied for and received. One of the biggest grants that Wendy mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, the beginning of her presentation, is the CARES Act. And that's not something that you just get handed. That's something that takes staff time. in order to complete all of the application formats and in order to verify the correct expenditures to be applied to that fund. So revenue building is not just looking at those great opportunities like we had from Piercy Toyota, where we can start to develop a relationship with the business partner, which yields some sort of funding, whether it be monetary or in kind. It takes a good effort on our part to pursue those different grants that come our way. It also takes a tremendous amount of time for us to build partnerships, as I know board members are doing alongside myself and some of our other team members, and bringing in corporate sponsors and partnerships to continue our funding needs. And we have our community, which has supported us in many different ways, one with the bond and the other with the community funding for maintaining low class sizes and making sure that we are able to retain teachers. And that is something that we've relied on for about 5 years, and we have another 3 years ahead of us. And that was before the pandemic. Now that we are in the pandemic, all of these efforts are even take on a different type of urgency. They take on a greater meaning for opportunity, because as I talked about too with our task force working on revising what in-person learning looks like, we also need to consider how we are going to do things differently, as Mr. Jung pointed out, in order to accelerate those learning gains that are so needed by many of our students, even more so now. So as we continue to seek out revenue building, we do need to consider looking at the community and what they might be able to support us with, especially in the areas of teacher retention, maintaining lower class sizes, and then accelerating student learning. And it's not just about teacher retention, it's about teacher development and building capacity of all of our team members so that all of these new tools that they've learned, they can use to a greater capacity, because we've discovered that the tools where we can do virtual learning really are not something that goes away when the pandemic is behind us. These are all tools that we can capitalize on in a way that provides many learners with different options, that allows learners who are actually thriving in this environment, who hadn't before, allows them to continue to do so. And that's going to take investment in our teachers and in their skills. And so that's what that line is about teacher and accelerated student learning program needs post-COVID-19. We have to look to the future, and we have to start planning now for 2021, 22, as well as the years after. And it all takes revenue.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you, Cheryl, for sharing that perspective with us. As you probably heard, starting this February till June 2021, the state is going to defer our cash apportionment. That means we'll have to use our own cash resources to process our payrolls and to run our operations, to pay utilities. And fortunately, we have sufficient cash balance in our reserves and a building fund that we can use to help us to go through these difficulty times. But this cash deferral becomes like a consistent tool for the state to use to balance their budget. And based on the current statutory law, this is an ongoing event. That means from now and the next year, you will see this cash defer happening. As I shared earlier with you, the continued cost increase for the STIRS and the PERS employer contributions has become a burden to all school districts. And we don't have additional income from the state to offset this cost increase. In early January, the governor will release the state's 21-22 budget. So by then, we'll have better information for next year's planning. Our next major budget update will be in March. In the meantime, we're also going to work on budget development of next year. As for our district, personally, I think we have been proactive and conservative in our budget planning. I particularly appreciate the leadership of our board, cabinet, and union members for working together as a team so we can use our limited financial resources to maximize the benefits for our students. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you again in planning for our next year's budget. So with that, I will end our presentation for tonight. And before I turn it over back to President Lin, I also would like to thank the business services team. I noticed our supervisor, Duke Wu, is virtually in the audience here with us tonight. And for everyone working in accounting and payroll, they're the heroes who working behind the scenes. They process each transactions, taking care of our employees' payment. Because of their good work, Lydia and I were able to present our financial information tonight virtually with you with confidence. So for that, I would like to thank everyone who working in our business services department and appreciate for their good job. So with that, I'll turn it back to President Lin, and we're asking the board to adopt our first interim budget tonight.
Yes, thank you, Wendy. And thank you, team, for the hard work and prepare such a detailed financial statement for us to understand. Thank you. Let's open the floor up for questions.
I'll start us off here. Assistant Superintendent Zhang, you really know how to keep a board member busy over the weekend with this 139-page SACS report, but I truly appreciate your team for being very thorough in your presentation and being very thorough in your projections. There was so much to unravel in what you said, in the sense of the budget that you projected included the fact that the state revenues are projected to decrease. And that's something we talk about all the time as far as, the people moving out of the state, the loss of jobs, loss of business, property tax values going down. It all affects us as a school district. As a business, it's hard to think about this. Typically, when you have a loss of revenue, you raise your tuition or you raise your prices. We don't have that. And Superintendent Jordan, you framed it so perfectly in the sense of what we have to do as a district to think about how to generate revenue for our school district. My concern is the fact that we are deficit spending. However, your team has done an incredible job to mitigate the fact to get this positive report. So I see that. The best thing I leave for the team here is the fact that our budget really represents our values and beliefs, and it's reflected there and what we're trying to do. And thank you for the ending bullet points of what we're trying to do in bringing students back in the future, because they will come back with different experiences back to the classroom, and the assessment of where their learning is now and going forward, that's going to take a cost to implement. So I thank you for the future thinking of that, and I appreciate the in-depth report.
Yes, and with the transparency, we gained the trust from the community, and that's how we were able to bring in donors from the community to help. Any other questions for Wendy and the team?
I will share. I do share board member Min's sentiment that that being in deficit spending is not ideal, but I understand the circumstances. Two words I heard during this presentation that stood out were proactive and conservative. Wendy, you stated that you believe we've been proactive and conservative. I'm glad to hear that, and I think we should continue those two words, because we don't really know when the tail end of this pandemic is going to be, and there's still a lot of uncertainty up in the air right now. So we should try and make every dollar count, make every dollar stretch, and really hunker down for the long haul, because there's just so much uncertainty right now, and we need to really be prepared. This, like, getting through COVID is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I continue to have confidence in you and your team, Wendy. So keep doing what you've been doing.
Thank you. Any others?
Wendy, how far away, community fund district?
I'm glad you asked that question. In the current year, we're about $20 million away from being a community funded district. But the reason we're about 20 million, because this year the revenue actually was funded at last year level. But from the historically, we're about 25 million away, because you think about each year our revenue, the LCFF revenue is supposed to go up. But our property tax revenue has been pretty steady, and it's about 75 million. And so when our total LCFF go up, and then our property tax value does not increase much, so the gap will start to grow.
So 25 million in Milpitas is roughly, that calculation comes from property taxes. So 25 million in property taxes in Milpitas potentially means 150 new home sales.
Kelly, you're the expert. What do you think?
You know, I don't see that the property tax values are going down just based on what is the shortage when a home is being sold. It's selling, you know, 100 to 200,000 above asking. Those are for the single family homes, and those are the ones that I've been dealing with my clients. It's like we lose an offer because the offer is 100 to 200,000 above a dumpy old house. So I don't know. I'm just, that's just going through my head as we're talking about this. It's like, I don't know. It's just.
Yeah, it's hard to predict and project, because I mean the house value in the Santa Clara County, most of them like basic aid district or community funded district, they're projecting about 2% increase still. And so I think eventually Milpitas, if we're doing really well, and gradually we can close that gap, but it will take some effort to actually become a community funded district.
So just to answer that, sorry, part of the reason that why the property values are increasing right now is because the federal fund rates are holding steady at a low rate, where borrowers that couldn't enter in the home purchasing business can now, but as again, projecting, the rates will go up at some point, and that's going to increase the cost of borrowing. So that will inversely affect the housing prices as well. And that's just from a future projection.
Yeah, but home values in the Bay Area is going to hold. I mean, the values, you know, it keeps going up, but it may slow down, you know, on how much it goes up, but it does go up. It just, you know, how much, right? Yeah, the interest rates are lower right now. Of course, people are overbidding, but when the rates are going to go up, the value, I mean, they're not going to go as much, but I do see it keeps going up, and the value in the Bay Area, it holds its value.
Right, so maybe the number of transactions could be decreased.
So Kelly, what's the, so on a house that's, 1.5, what's the property tax on that?
We use 1.25.
So that's 100 grand? No,
1.5, no,
okay.
it's
Yeah.
about, wait a minute, 1.25. Did you say 1.25 or 1.5 million?
I said 1.5.
1252, okay. So it's about, wait, one,
Well, I just did a 1 point, I mean, it's about over 22,000. I mean, the property tax. So
yeah,
for
22,500.
yeah, yeah.
So we're
And
not
then
close.
you can, yeah, yes, yeah,
So that's 1,000 homes to get to
yes,
25 million.
yes.
And we don't have that inventory. I don't know if we have an inventory with 1,000. I know there's a lot of the outskirts of Milpitas and things like that, but we don't have that inventory
Right.
to get there.
But if your property value will go up, say for example, like in some area, the property value from 1 million will go up to 2 million, and then your property tax value will double. So one of the factor we would hope in Milpitas area, the property value will go up significantly in the next few years. That could reduce this gap.
So if we done any, so I'd be interested in looking at any legislation in terms of how they define the community fund, and if they're willing, and if there's any appetite to change that, because you called it out, and we've been talking about this for years, the state dependency, and we've been building this three-legged stool in terms of generating funds, in terms of looking at bringing in staffing, particularly to help us generate funds, whether it's a grant writer or someone that just really works with building community partnerships so that we can have additional revenue that's sustainable. And then we always kind of come back around to this conversation. So Kelly, thank you for your calculations and input. Because where I was going was that, you know, if we could promote, as I heard earlier Norman say, if we could promote Milpitas, which creates an opportunity for us to have more revenue coming on the property tax side, and we become basic aid because our numbers are decreasing, then we got a shot at something. But it seems like we're still several years away from that, unless there is some sort of change in the community fund or basic aid district structure that we can actually do something about. Otherwise, we just have to keep hustling as best we possibly can, looking at all funding sources that are possible.
And isn't Robson Homes, those homes, is it going to be ready by, is it next year or the year after? Those are going to go in $1 million.
Yeah, so we would need an inventory of around, say, around 1,000 to be sold in order for us to get near.
There's
that,
also commercial properties, those contribute as well as commercial properties are developed.
Yes.
That's the worst hit right now.
Yeah, well, I think, well, Chris, I appreciate you to start ask us, I mean, to think about this. That's also the purpose I share that tonight with you, just to brought to everyone's attention. There is a potential opportunity for Milpitas to grow. And eventually, if we become a community-funded district, but also I see there are other values. You know, if our community work really hard together, and there might be other potential revenue sources that can also help district to grow. If we normally you hear people say better school and a better property value. Once now property value go up, and then that automatically will reduce the gap. So we'll be getting very closer.
So teacher retention, acquisition, development strategies as a community approach provide us other opportunities. So we'll do some, so I guess in the future, we'll see a comparative analysis in terms of what other districts are doing in that area and what we could possibly do. Got a thumbs up from the superintendent. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So with that, if anyone, if I would, if anyone would like to make the motion on that, if
Wait,
not, I'm more than willing to make the motion.
there's public comment.
Awesome. Thank you, hon. Thank you,
Thank you.
President.
Yes, we have one person with their hand raised. It is Jacqueline Romero. Your audio is enabled. And go ahead and make your public comment.
Thank you. I was a bit confused, I guess, about a year ago. I sat in a meeting just like this going over, I think it was the same similar conversation. And Mrs. Zhang, you started by saying under the building fund, you started by saying we shouldn't be using these funds, but yet in year 2 or year 3, we're going to have to use those funds. I think you said year 3. So I guess my question is being in the industry I'm in, effectively, if you're not bringing enough income in to cover your debts, liabilities, and responsibilities, you're considered insolvent. In this conversation, because there's money being pulled from reserves, would you say that the district is insolvent, or would you say it's solvent? That's just a question I have.
Okay. Let me see if I can still bring back the presentation. Hold on. Did I?
Go ahead, Wendy. We had to take down the timer, so you should be able to share now.
Oh, okay. So let me share this presentation. I'll go back to this slide. Okay. Well, to answer your question, Jackie, the district is solvent, and the district financial conditions actually have been improved compared to what we projected back in June. And as I mentioned, most of the district will have a reserve fund, and the reserve fund is used to help general fund budget. So that's what we do here. And as a matter of fact, for us, our reserve balance right now projected at 13.2 million is very good. And this is also one of the main reasons that when we meet with Moody's and the Standard & Poor's, those credit agencies, when we presented our financial statements to them, they see a strong financial conditions of the district. And the building fund, I also share that, and which you mentioned is correct. We should not rely on building fund to balance general fund budget, because this is more like another saving besides the reserve fund. Because the building fund revenue, and normally we try to keep it to spend in case we have emergency repairs on buildings, besides our bond program or bond fund. However, under the current difficulty times, this is unprecedented time probably in the history. The state has been not officially cut school districts funding, but we're funded at last year's level. That means already a cut, because we're supposed to get a 3% cost of living adjustment this year, but we didn't. And so to me, that is a reduction in revenue. But our expenditures continue to grow. And then one of the major increase, as I shared earlier, the pension cost, that's beyond our control. So because of this situation, it made us with no choice. We have to use our building fund. And we're actually very fortunate. We have a building fund also set aside that we can rely on. Some districts, they don't have this building fund. So then guess what? They will have to do major layoffs. And they have to probably to cut somewhere in their districts. But for Milpitas, if you watch our budget presentations in these past few years, we did not have any major layoffs. And we're trying to produce savings by either doing reorganizations or maybe through attritions. Means if we have vacancies, we'll try to evaluate the duties and see how we can still function without filling the position if necessary. Or there are other ways, if we can save money, we'll do it. So we were able to get where we are right now financially. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, we have another public comment. This is Robert Jung. We're going to enable your audio and take yourself off mute, and you're ready to go.
Thanks, Wendy, for the explanation. Refresh my memory, has our stirs and purs started to level off? And is there an expectation that those are going to decrease over time?
No, there is a no. And as I shared earlier in this presentation slide, the third year, the stirs will increase by 2.1%. The PERS will increase by 3.3%. That's about 1.8 million additional cost. The owning level is this coming year for stirs. Stirs will cap at 16.1%, but then it will go up right after that.
Okay, we don't have anybody else with their hand raised at this time.
Thank you, Scott.
Go ahead.
Vice President Norwood, I think before we took the public comments, you made the motion?
Yep.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any other discussions on this?
Yes, being a part of this, being here my 6th year and understanding over time that Wendy and her team always views this opportunity as a chance to share projections as well as based on the information that we have today, and continually being resourceful in terms of how we look at restructuring and the amount that we may have to restructure on an annual basis. As far as cost management is concerned, we have always ended up solvent. So being through this experience a number of different times and understanding where we are today, we will continue to do what it takes when it needs to be done in order to make sure that MUSD always comes out stronger than it's been in the past. It may look different. There may be some changes, but we are committed to what's necessary, and we will continue to be committed that way. So I appreciate all the audience being here, and I'm looking forward to them continuing their participation and understanding to see how this works on an ongoing basis.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the first interim report of 2020-21 is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy, and the team.
Thank you.
Welcome, Lilia.
And we're moving on to D, adopt the 2020-21 state template local control funding formula. And this is for Assistant Superintendent Business Services, Wendy Yang.
Yes, this is our item again. This is a new item that we will have to do it along with our first interim budget adoption tonight. And the state created this template, and it's called a budget overview for parents. And honestly, I think this template can be also a little bit confusing. So what we did is we prepared a short presentation just to walk you through the data that this state template is used. So at least you have an understanding where is the data coming from and what is the purpose of it. And since this is the first year, the school districts have to provide this information. And I was thinking in the future, maybe we can create some sort of maybe additional slides or additional information that we can share with the parents. And I'm also welcome for any feedback and for the future improvement. But this is the first year we're doing that, and we're just going to use the state template for tonight. And we're asking the board to adopt this template. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our manager of business services, Lilia, so she can walk you through the template.
Hi, good evening again. So this year we are going to be doing the budget overview for parents for the 2021 fiscal year. I'm going to next slide. So a little bit of history for the 2021 school year. The school districts have to work with parents, educators, students, and the community to develop a learning continuity plan. This replaces the LCAP, which is our local control and accountability plan for the 2021 school year. This provides the school districts with the opportunity to describe how they're planning to provide high quality education, social emotional support, and nutrition to students during the COVID-19 pandemic. It provides transparency to parents regarding the funds apportioned to and budgeted by the district. It also highlights COVID-19 fiscal response efforts under the Learning Continuity Plan and how it relates to the district's first interim budget report. It continues to highlight the district's commitment to provide increased and improved services to the high needs and or also known as unduplicated students. Okay, so for this slide, it lists our projected general fund revenue for the 2021 school year. On the bottom, you'll see the acronyms that are used in this slide. Our LCFF, as we've mentioned before, is the Learning Control Funding Formula. And for the CARES funds is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. Our total LCFF funds are the 94.5 million. Of those LCFF funds, 7.4 million are a portion from supplemental and concentration grants, and about 10 million are about 10 million are for other state funds. About 9.8 million are the local funds, and for total federal funds, it's about 8.5 million. We also have Federal CARES Fund, which is about 5.4 million. We do want to note that the Federal CARES funds are a part of the federal funds. So it's not additional money. I mean, it is additional, but it is already counted under our total federal funds. And then our total comes to our projected revenue of about 123 million in revenue.
And also, Lydia, just to double check, I think the LCFF supplemental and the concentration grant, the 7.4 million is also included under the 94.5 million, right?
Yeah, correct.
And so this total projected revenue is a straight of LCFF, other state, other local, and total federal.
That's correct.
Yes, okay.
Our next slide. Here we're going to look at the total budgeted expenditures for the 2021 school year. Our total budgeted general fund expenditures are going to be 131 million. Of these funds, we are budgeting for the learning continuity plan is going to be about 5.4 million. And of those 5.4, about 4.7 will be budgeted to the high need students. For our total of about 125 million that are not in the learning continuity plan. In our template, it this is how it was broken down. So this is, I think, why Wendy was saying it's a little bit different and seeing how it kind of reads out. And then for so this is our last slide in the template. And in 2021, MUSD, Milpitas Unified LCAP budgeted about 8.3 million for planned actions to increase or improve services for high need students. Milpitas Unified spent 8.2 million for the actions and services for high need students in 2020. The difference in between the budget and the actual did not impact any of the actions and services or the overall increase for the services for high needs students, as the difference was for mostly statutory benefits for employees. So all of the services that were budgeted were met.
And also, just to point out to the audience, our supplemental funds from the LCFF is about 7.5 million last year. So in reality, we have been spent more on this, focusing on supporting the supplemental students.
And this concludes our presentation.
So any questions?
Say that last part again, Wendy, that we've been spending more what?
Oh, for the supplemental students, and our actual expenditure for last year was about 8.2 million, but the actual revenue that generated by the supplemental students is around maybe 7.5 million. Because the supplemental funding is a part of the total LCFF.
Thank you.
So
We
tonight,
have-
we're asking the board to adopt this template.
We have a public comment from Robert Jung. Scott, would you enable his, okay.
Is audio? Yeah, sure. Hold on one sec. We have public comment from Robert Jung. Your audio is enabled. You're good to go.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Han. Wendy, just a question. So this is the projected revenue. Where do you, if you get additional funding such as grants that are not necessarily state grants, let's say local grants and donations and things like that, where does that show up, or does that not include in this particular template?
Well, that will be under local revenues.
Okay, that shows under local revenues?
Yeah, that overall we listed about 9.8 million, so
Yeah.
that'll be under there.
And I'm assuming the lottery are going to be under state funds, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Robert.
We have one more public comment, President Leanne. This one's from Jacqueline Romero. We've enabled your audio. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Mrs. Zhang, thank you so much for the clarification on my last question. So I just want to be clear though. So in year 3, if things continue the way they are, it does seem like the district will be insolvent. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct. Based on our current projection, year 3, we will have a balanced budget. And also, again, the purpose of this first interim certification is we submitted a positive certification. A positive means we were able to meet our financial obligations. But of course, that is based on current projection. What if the state comes back, said, okay, we're going to cut district by another 15% in revenue? Of course, we'll have to do some other rearrangement in our district, but we will always have to have a balanced budget. Otherwise, we will be in trouble. So we will have to submit either a qualified or negative certifications, which we don't want to go in that direction. So let me be clear again. The district is financially solvent for the current year and the next 2 years based on our current projection with current available information.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any other public comments. Going back to our board members, do we have any questions for Wendy and the team?
Just the formatting for the slides. I know that you explained the total. LCF and the total federal. But looking at that slide, it can be confusing for a parent because they're going to add all those numbers together and they're not going to get to that total. So I would just ask to either color code it or fix the formatting of that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your comments. That's why we figured we have to walk you through this template because we don't want you to misunderstood. And unfortunately, I hope, I think this is the first year the state also developing this template, and they probably will receive additional feedbacks from parents, from the community. Hopefully, in the future, they can change it. Or maybe next year, we're going to use our own worksheet.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention that we can't edit. So we actually try to like color code it, or we try to like change some of the things so that it was easier for us to present, but a lot of the cells were basically locked, or they were you couldn't add anything to them. So that's why we decided to do the presentation, to kind of explain and kind of walk people through it.
Thank you for that. Is there a possibility to add a referendum or addendum, or a glossary, just a legend per se, to explain that?
To the presentation or to the spreadsheet? We can't add anything.
Correct, not to the spreadsheet, but to the presentation itself.
What kind of legend you're looking for then?
Just that quick note that the total of the LCF includes, all the below and federal, all the below.
Oh, I see. Just make a note, say, the supplemental is part of the total LCFF revenue, something like that.
Correct.
Okay. I mean, if that is the direction from the rest of the board members, and I will ask you guys to adopt it, and then we'll just make that note in our presentation, because the spreadsheet we cannot make change. Or maybe.
One of the things that you didn't share at the beginning was the fact that even though this is a parent template, it was provided to us to use. And the fact that the way that it gets edited or the way that it gets changed over time is that after we use it, we share it, it gets feedback, and then we turn that back in with that feedback. And then we are hopeful that there are a number of other school districts and other folks that make those suggestions. And then we can show the iteration process, which is very similar to LCFF, or the local control funding formula. And Norma will tell you that Norma will tell you about what they give you and then how it gets a chance to get iterated over time, because it comes from the top down, and this is not something that we made up.
Thank you, Vice President Norwood. I appreciate the connection. This goes directly, just pretty much with how the state develops the template for the LCUP. This template that Wendy is presenting is basically its intent is the transparency to show how we're utilizing the funds that are allocated by the state and in alignment with the plan.
And the visual of it for the layman user is never right.
Yeah.
And it usually takes several years, no matter how much feedback that they get, for them to get close. And there always needs to be some sort of human intervention, not even including on the slides. You can add everything that you want to the slides that you want, but depending on who the audience is and their commitment to understanding and living in this information, which I'll probably say 100 out of 101 parents won't do, we will need some support from staff to be able to explain it. So I appreciate both what Wendy and Lilia did share tonight.
Yep, and at the front of it, on the front cover for publication, or the back cover for publication, we can add a page that provides the explanation.
Yeah,
that doesn't.
Yeah, we can do that.
That's for us.
Thank you.
We also have another public comment from Robert Young.
We're going to enable his audio, and go ahead, Robert.
So Wendy, sorry, I should have asked this question earlier. In this particular plan, it's interesting that they don't ask how many students are considered in that supplemental category or in in this case, they're calling high needs students. Can you give me an idea, or can someone give me an idea how many of our students are in that supplemental category?
Well, I can give you a percentage, and because
Okay.
yeah, so if you look at our multi-year projection summary sheet and in the board agenda attachment, for
Yeah.
the current year, the supplemental funding percentage is 42.96%, and the next year is 39.4%, and then 36.3%.
Okay. Is that a direct correlation to number of students if I just divide it out, or?
Well, it's unduplicated. So
Yeah,
it's
okay.
unduplicated of between English learners and low income, foster youth, and students with disabilities.
Okay. Yeah.
And then if you really want to know the number of students, and I would suggest you go to the CDE website, and each year around February, district will certify our CalPAS data. So in the
Right.
CalPAS, it will listed the number of students.
That's true. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah.
All right. Another question from Jack.
We have Jacqueline Romero with her hand raised. You're ready to go, Jacqueline. Go right ahead.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment. If I was there in the school board meeting, you guys would be able to see my gratefulness of taking the time to explain and inform us that aren't as informed as others. So I just want to take a moment and thank you, Mrs. Zhang, for your patience and for sharing your knowledge with me and anybody else that had that same question in the meeting. So thanks again. And I just want to let you know that I appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I appreciate your feedback and the question too.
Thank you very much, Jackie and Robert, for your feedback and comment. Is there a motion?
I motion that we adopt the 2021 state template local control funding formula.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, in second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it is adopted. Moving on to the consent items. Consent items are considered routine and will be acted upon by the board in one motion. There is no discussion on these items prior to the motion. Unless members of the board, staff, or public request that specific items be tabled, removed, or removed for discussion or correction. So, any items to be removed? Does anyone want to entertain a motion? Hello? Is there a motion?
I motion that we approve the consent items.
There's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
You have a second.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion on this item? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, consent items are approved. And we are moving on to the dates for future board meeting, December 15 at 6 p.m. special meeting. This is the meeting where we are going to work on our annual organizational meeting, and it's going to be Zoom. Any announcements from board members?
I just want to, the announcement I'd like to make is thanking the attendees tonight that are willing to stay with us to ask the questions to better understand how all this works. I appreciate the questions and the willingness for them to kind of follow this along and do the best that they can to participate. It is refreshing to the executive cabinet. It is refreshing to me to know that there are people in the community that care about this work this deeply, that are willing to be with us at approximately 10 o'clock at night reviewing this information. So I do appreciate all of that opportunity. I do appreciate those participating and the staff members that are here as well.
I do too. Thank you all.
Yeah, I do as well. Thank you to the community members asking the questions.
Thank you. Are there any comments, not comments, announcements or reminders from?
How are we doing with Jack Emery? How is the board doing with Jack Emery?
I gave my check to Scott earlier.
That's right. We all made pledges last board meeting.
Scott, could you share with us what the total is collected so far?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let's see here. According to my records, we have $2,800 in monetary donations by the board, executive cabinet, Rotary, and private resident.
Awesome.
But we're welcoming more. You just keep them coming. It's a great cause, and it's not too late to participate.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. All right, any other announcements before we adjourn the meeting?
I do want to say that the COVID cases really are spiking, and new records for infections are being broken, not only in the county but across the country. So please, please, please wear a mask. I always wear a mask when I go out.
Thank you for always reminding us, Michael. And yes, we are, all of us have to be very careful and wearing masks, wash our hands, social distancing. Yes, thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Kelly Min, right? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.